Good evening, all. Welcome to Conversations That Count. Thank you for joining us on this weekday evening. I am Srilekha Pale, Fairfax GOP Vice Chair of Strategy and Engagement. As Republican Party congressional primaries are coming up, I am continuing to focus on bringing in all our exemplary candidates to Conversations That Count so we get to know the candidates' positions on the issues that you and I care about. At Fairfax GOP, we are deeply committed to engaging all of our voters and constituents during this entire process. So if you have any questions for our candidate today, please post it on Facebook Live and I will try to get to all of them. Today, it is my honor to invite Monica Carpio. Monica is running in 8th Congressional District along with 3 other candidates. Monica lives in McLean with her husband, Jerry, and their 2 wonderful daughters. She holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Stanford and a master's degree in economics from Cornell. That makes Monica, Ivy League economist, very proud. Monica has worked in the Federal Department of Labor for about 8 years, as well as U.S. Department of Commerce for about 4 years. Monica, welcome to Conversations That Count. I am glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I am so happy to be here. This is a great opportunity to share my ideas and to tell people about myself. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Monica, let me first start by asking, what motivated you to run? I always wonder, I think that's like always my best question for the candidates. Why did you think you wanted to run for Congress? It's a pretty big position to start off the political life.
Yes. Well, I was motivated to run basically after the first 3 months of the pandemic. I felt very disappointed in how politicians dealt with the pandemic. I thought that the individual rights of people were being taken away unreasonably, and I was very upset by the government overreach and by our local politicians. I was not very political before this. I always like to read what's on the news and be well informed. However, I didn't know really who our local politicians were because I didn't really pay attention except for like the governor, senators. But that's when I started finding out about the school board members and about other politicians like the congressmen in the area. And basically, I became really involved in Virginia politics the last 2 years. So I'm doing this because I think that a lot of us need a voice. We're not really being represented by our congressmen at the moment.
Monica, I think those are wonderful reasons to run. A lot of candidates have seen how our country is shaping up in the last 2 years. But as we go along, I also would like you to talk about why Congress. I mean, school board is coming up, supervisor is coming up. But I always like to understand congressional position is a position that's more of like, it does focus on local issues, but it focuses more on federal issues. But while you're talking about your issues, I would love to you to elaborate that. So,
That's
Monica,
right.
yeah, Monica, I know
well,
yeah, go ahead, Monica.
Well, I believe that with my life experience and my education, I could really make a difference. I've been living in the Beltway now for about more than 20 years, and I'm an economist inside the Beltway and outside the Beltway. I've lived overseas and I've lived in various parts of our nation, mainly in the West Coast and East Coast. And I have also lived in several parts of the 8th District in Arlington, Alexandria, and Fairfax County. And I think that as a congresswoman, I could really make more of a difference than at a more local level, like school board or, board of supervisors. I think that what happened during the pandemic was really terrible. What the politicians did, closing businesses, it really affected women and children in a very bad way. I mean, a lot of small business owners are women. And the school closures were really, really terrible for children. Also, look at the economy now. I mean, this is the after effect of having closed businesses and just printing money like crazy. Politicians, people can't be treated that way. I mean, it's really affected people's mental health, their their ability to their economy, their personal income. So something has to be done. These politicians have to be removed. They have to basically change is needed. They have to retire. So that's why I want to retire buyer.
Monica, I think that is great motivation to run. I would love to understand about buyer a little bit more. But Monica, I know at first you were intending to run for 10th district but then redistricting happened and a lot of us got shuffled around. So voters are also in the mode of not understanding which district they belong to. It'll be great if you can elaborate the 8th congressional district boundaries, but I'm also very interested in knowing the demographics of 8th congressional district. Can you kind of hit on those 2 points?
Yes. So the 8th district is one of the smallest districts geographically, but because the population is so dense, it's in the upper corner by DC. It includes Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and parts of Fairfax County. So I live in the 8th district, right, really close to the border with the 11th district, and 50% of the 8th districts are ethnic minorities, and a large part of that are Hispanic people, and as you can probably tell, I am Hispanic myself. My background, I was born in California, and my parents are South American from Peru. And my parents came here when they were my dad's 16, my mother 21. And in their country, there's a large Asian population. I don't know if you're familiar with that, especially Japanese and Chinese. There was actually even one president who, Japanese Peruvian, Fujimori, and his daughter recently ran for president of Peru. She lost, but yeah. So I feel like I will be a good representative for the 8th district because at the moment there are 11 congressmen in Virginia and only 4 are Republican, and they're all men, and there are no female Republicans. Now that might change because I'm pretty much sure that Jennifer Wexton is going to lose in the 10th district, and she will probably lose to a woman. But is one female Republican congresswoman enough in Virginia? I would say no. Besides, I would say that we should have an ethnic minority represent us, the Republican Party, because there's just a lot of us now. And sure, I am not a seasoned public speaker. However, I'm not going to let that deter me from trying to do this because I feel like I'm qualified in other ways. I have the experience working for the federal government and also private industry. And I am also a parent. I'm a mother of 2 children who attend public schools. So my children attend public schools, so I know what all these people that suffered during the pandemic with the public schools closures went through. I understand that because I am a parent that supported Governor Youngkin in his campaign. And I also supported the school board recall effort with the other, mostly mothers, because there were lots of volunteers. There were some dads there, but it was mostly moms. So moms need a voice. Conservative moms need a voice because there are 3 congresswomen from Virginia right now: Elaine Luria, Abigail Spanberger, and Jennifer Wexton, but they're all Democrats.
Sure.
And sometimes I don't really feel like they're my voice in Congress because I am a conservative person. I believe, in a family unit. I am not in agreement with all these ideas, new ideas. I don't think those subjects should be touched upon in schools, like the gender identity issues, all that. I think those are conversations for adults only.
So, Monica, I truly believe your qualifications are good enough. I don't know if I would necessarily think we just need to put females or ethnic folks just to put them But however, if they're qualified, I'm all for it. I think it's definitely a valuable thing to have that representation. But I think your qualifications are good enough to stay on the ballot. So I would love to focus on those qualifications. Can you also elaborate on 8th congressional district boundaries since there is redistricting that has happened recently? Where do your boundaries fall?
Oh yeah. So basically, between McLean and Great Falls, parts of McLean are most of McLean is 8th district, then Great Falls is in the 11th district. Then Alexandria, Fort Hunt are in the 8th district. Monticello, Falls Church, Cedar Falls Church are in the 8th district. Arlington is in the 8th district. So basically that.
Got
And
it.
then it borders with the 7th district, I believe, with Manassas.
Oh, got it. Okay, okay. So it's a lot of Alexandria, a lot of Arlington and stuff. So, Monica, I
It's
noted.
all it's all of Arlington and all of Alexandria and all of Falls Church.
Got it. Okay. So I know that I'm a data person. I enjoy data myself. So I always slice and dice quite a bit. I know in 8th congressional district there are about 18.5% Hispanic, which I think you alluded to that. That's about 150,000 people. And we also have Black or African American, which are about 112,000 people and close to 100,000 Asian American residents. So I know that as a Latino American, you can relate very well to Hispanic community. But are you trying to engage Black or African American and Asian communities? Because that would be a great strategizing, diverse engagement. So are you trying to
Yes,
kind of engage them?
yes, of course I am. Currently, Virginia has two African American congressmen, and again, they're Democrats. I think their names are Bobby Scott, and I forgot the other gentleman's name. But yes, of course, we want minorities that are conservative, and this is changing. I mean, the Republican Party is changing, the Democrat Party is changing. Seems like everyone's kind of moving more towards the left, but the Democratic Party is moving, just gone way too far left. Um, you know, our nation's demographics are changing. There are more and more minorities, so that's just gonna change the makeup of the Congress and other
So, so Monica, let me ask
government bodies.
you. You did say that you are engaging these diverse voters. So when you're speaking to them, what are the top issues that are facing these communities? Is it any different than mainstream communities? In the sense I say mainstream communities, yes, they're worried about critical race theory 100% of the time. They're worried about small businesses shutting down. They're worried about public safety. But is that what diverse communities like African American communities, Asian communities, and Hispanic communities are also saying, or do they have different issues facing them?
Well, I would say that a lot of issues are actually similar. I mean, all of the communities suffer with more crime. So, and also with bad schooling, you know, with schools closing, you know, with children being taught things that the parents don't really relate to. So that affects all communities. So, I mean, I don't really want to, I wouldn't just be a person representing minorities. I mean, I would be a person representing everyone. So I think that that's one thing. I don't really want to be seen exactly as just like a minority person. I'm just an American. And some of the issues right now are border control. That's a really important issue to me because border control is super important because right now there's way too much illegal immigration and it's creating a problem with drugs, drugs in our youth, and crime, and overpopulation, over just straining our public systems, like our school systems. That affects everyone. So we have to do something about that. I
Yeah.
mean, like you've never heard so much about carjackings and sounds sometimes the news sounds like we're in another country like South Africa or something. It was, I mean, this is not what happened before here. And I believe that people here, basically families are just strained. I mean, it's just so it's so difficult for families just to like basically to, be able to meet their needs. I mean, a lot of families have to work two jobs just to be able to have appropriate housing for their children, and it shouldn't be that way. So there's a problem with immigration. There's too much illegal immigration in my mind, and I think that's affecting everyone. Not just the not just minorities or not just the majority. So some issues that just affect everyone.
I think you're 100% right? Issues are issues, regardless of where you fall. If schools are bad schools, they're bad schools for minority communities, they're bad schools for majority communities. I have to agree with that. Monica, tell me something. On your website, I did see a vibrant and active website. I loved it. It's colorful. You had lots of pictures, and that just shows how much you're out there in the community, talking to Republicans, trying to understand their issues. But I still would like you to elaborate on top three issues that you chose for your campaign. I believe you chose immigration, but I would love to hear more about the top three issues, and we can elaborate as we go along. But can you name what those issues?
Yes. I it was very important for me to have representation in Congress that values family issues, old-fashioned values. Seems to me like in today's society that's being de-emphasized, the importance of family. And I mean, I think it's good, to be open-minded, to accept people if they want to act a certain way. However, the family unit is very important, and elderly people should be respected. So I think that in today's world, people are too rude, and I think that has to change. Also, another issue which is very important to me is term limits in Congress. I think a lot of Congress people stay way too long in Congress, and they just stop caring. Like, for example, our Congressman, Mr. Byer, in the 8th District, I don't think that he really cares anymore. I mean, he he seems to me like he just says, "Oh, okay, the Democrat Party is a party of compassion," but what about the compassion of the people who vote, in the 8th District? I mean, no, it just doesn't. He doesn't make sense. I mean, he just cares about other people, like foreign people, instead of caring about the people who live here. I mean, when the schools were closed for 2 years, what about all the people who had to stay home with 4 or 5 children, and all the little kids were screaming, and the couples were fighting? I mean, doesn't he care about that? Then he says he cares about women. No, he doesn't care about women. If he cared about women, then people like him would have done something. Of course, he doesn't care because he's a millionaire. He is totally connected to the people he's supposed to represent. He owns a bunch of car dealerships. He used to be an ambassador to Switzerland. He used to be lieutenant governor. I think he would be better off just being a diplomat. He's a classy guy. He should just, just do that. But that doesn't really matter if he doesn't act like he's a congressperson.
Yeah. Oh, so Monica, I think you brought up one good point where you said he's been there for too long. I think you're absolutely right. I say when you are even in a profession for too long with no growth in that profession or not doing different thing, you lose the passion for the job. I think that happens to best of the individuals. And it also results in complacency. And
Yeah.
complacency is not what our country needs. We need people that are energetic, that want to do good things, that want to make policy changes. Monica, I'm sure you know this, but I do want to bring it to your attention and the people that are hearing to attention. Congressman Don Byer is serving his fourth term and he's in his 70s. I always say if this happens in corporate world or private sector, they will be retired, waving the path for new leaders, early careerists, because that's how the new ideas and diversity of perspective and ideas come into picture. But I do want to ask
But for
you.
example, like look at the guy in the district next door, Jerry Conley. I think he's been there much longer, like 30 years or 35 years. Then I think Bobby Scott's been there for the same, like 35 years. And
Correct.
the woman in D.C., Mrs. Congresswoman Norton, she's been there for like more than 35 years.
Correct.
I mean, I think that that's just way too long. There's a congressman in Alaska. He just retired or died. He'd been there for 49 years. 49 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long time.
That's why I think
So I
career
think that,
politicians, people make money, career politicians is not a great thing for our country. So, Monica, let me ask you about Congressman Don Byer's policies. Again, as I said, I'm definitely into data and policies because I think that's where the meat of our discussion should focus on so we get the best out of understanding the ideas. He serves as the chairman of Congress Joint Economic Committee, and he also serves on the House committees on Ways and Means and House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, where he actually chairs the space subcommittee. You're an economist yourself, which I think is a proud thing for a Republican candidate to have such fabulous background. So tell me, I mean, as he's serving the chairman of Congress's Joint Economic Committee, are there any part of his economic policy positions that you disagree with and you think you can do way better resolutions?
yeah, I mean, he wants to raise the debt limit. I think that the government should stop spending so much money. The government spends way too much money. The government should stop taxing. Government should only tax the 1% basically. You should stop taxing the middle class. I mean, the middle class have had enough. Gas prices are out of control. It's hard to even get to work. Food prices are up because of supply chain issues. So I think that the government spends way too much money. I mean, it's fine what they spend on defense, but for example, the U.S. Department of Education is superfluous because the funding for the schools come from the state and from local taxes. The U.S. Department of Education is the third largest federal agency, and it mostly gives grants for higher education. We need more tradespeople, not so many college graduates. I mean, you can't even find a reasonably priced handyman nowadays because everybody has, a law degree. I mean, we don't need so many lawyers. We need more tradespeople. So that money from the U.S. Department of Education money should probably be used for other things like um, relieving the debt, or maybe spending it on metal detectors or public schools to protect the children. I think
Yeah.
that's what should be done.
So, Monica, you obviously have some concrete policy differences between you and Don Bayer. I want to stick to federal debt because I also want to pick your brain on you being an economist and also our federal debt issue that's going on. As you know, it has become a large percentage of GDP than it has ever been. As a result, I mean, as every woman, man, and child in our country now has a $90,000 government credit card bill, courtesy of Don Byer's work in the House of Ways and Means Committee and the Joint Economic Committee. I think this happened because Bayer thought it was okay when he voted to raise the federal debt limits. Have you ever asked your congressman about this? I mean, I'm curious to know how. I know that debates won't happen until primaries are over, but I didn't know if you got a chance to ask him via town halls or through an email. I mean, what kind of interactions if you had? If so, what was his response for raising such a large amount?
No, I've never met Don Bayer, but I am planning to attend his women's conference on Friday, May 6th. I want to see what he has to say. I want to see what he has to say about issues like domestic violence or women's conditions in the workplace. I mean, why do women get paid less in general for the same kind of work than men do with the same kinds of degrees? But more than anything, my issue is with he says that he cares about women. So I mean, why was it okay for him to keep schools closed and businesses closed for so long? I mean, that was just wrong. It really affected women in a negative way. So I do plan to go to that event, and I had planned to go to a debate he had with Victoria Veresing, who's the person who's running against him in the Democratic Party. But I was not able to go because I had to do something else today. However, I am planning to start going to his debates if I'm available because I have to go to events myself for my campaign.
Sure.
But I do want to start. I'm going to go to that on Friday. He's having a women's conference. I think it's at George Mason University on Friday at 6.
Excellent. I think the more we encounter these Democrat politicians, any sitting politicians that have been there forever, the more we can bring up our issues. So, Monica, while
Yeah,
you're
because a lot of these politicians, they just talk and talk and talk about how much they care. Da, 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 da. They can go for like an hour and just really not say anything. They just use fancy language. But I mean, why is it so hard? Like every year, it gets harder and harder for the middle class American and middle class families to just get their work done. I mean, why is it harder? So it doesn't matter how fancy people talk. I mean, how is it affecting families? I mean, families are not even being respected. I mean, you had this guy like Terry McAuliffe saying, "Oh, I don't think parents should be able to tell people what to do." Like, it's just how could he say that? I mean, that's just terrible. That was really silly of him. I think that's why he lost.
absolutely. Absolutely, Monica. I was present during the debate, and I was pretty shocked myself. Monica, I mean, I think you started talking about it in your previous answer. I really want to grab onto that. You talked about women's rights. You talked about why are women not getting paid more. Although I think that is much more complex issue. There's much more
Yeah, and also, can I just say, I just want to clarify something because I got an email from a couple of people the last few months. I guess when I said women's rights, they thought I was talking about, abortion, but I wasn't. I was actually talking more about the issue of domestic violence. I mean, luckily, I'm married to a man who's very nice. However, there's a lot of women out there who have a hard time, and there's a lot of crime committed by men towards women. A lot. Like I see it on the news every single day. I mean, we need more laws that protect women, that protect children, that protect kids that go on the are adopted children, because a lot of adopted children are adopted by people who are not the right people to do that. So there should be like a national database for children who are adopted, not just state databases, because sometimes the people who adopt the children, they don't treat them very well. Mhm.
So, Monica, domestic abuse is a real thing. I'm glad you kind of alluded to that. It is not just one of those social issues you can disregard. That is a real problem. I always say
Yeah,
healthcare and affordability is a real problem. Prescription drug
yeah,
prices is a real problem. Domestic abuse is a
yeah.
real problem. Affordable
Yeah,
home.
prescription. I mean, like the medical, the whole pharmaceutical industry is just out of control. I mean, it's really hard for seniors to just get their medicines. I mean, they can't afford to get their medicines or even go to the doctor with the Social Security, payments they get. It's hard. I mean, the whole medical industry is just out of control. It's just too much red tape. It's just terrible. So things have to be simplified. It seems to me like everything's so complicated. There's so many loopholes. There just needs to be more straight talk in government. Mhm.
Monica, I know you briefly mentioned about Social Security. On your website, I reviewed the website. Every time I try to sit with a candidate, I practically memorize everything that's on the website because it gives me an insight of what the candidate is thinking. On your website, you alluded to the fact that you'll start working on cutting waste from the budget, and you'll start with 68 billion of fraud and abuse in Medicaid and Medicaid. I believe you also alluded a little bit to the Social Security too. So is there any data behind it? Is that is an astounding number, $68 billion of fraud. Where did you, I know you're an economist and I'm not. So where did you get that number from? And also, can you elaborate on what kind of fraud are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't do all my website work. I mean, I have a team of people who work on the website and the emails. I do post to social media myself, but I have also a lot of advisors. And these are people who actually I don't pay. They're all volunteers, and they're great. So a lot of information, it's not just my work, but it's also other people's work. Yeah, so the fraud with that is basically, so a lot of people, the cost is so high because people come from other countries and they just come to the doctor here as if they have an accident or something. Basically they get treated for free. And where does that money come from? From the taxpayers. So, I mean, there should be more control at the borders and more visa restrictions. Basically, I mean, it's not being mean, but people need to realize that this country is there's just basically no more space for people. There's just no more space or money. Things have changed. My parents immigrated here 50 years ago, but the situation has totally changed. So it's like, if you don't have any more money to give out, then don't. I agree with a candidate that's being criticized right now because he's saying that the United States shouldn't be spending so much money on foreign aid. Maybe the way he said it was a little rough, but I agree with what he says. I mean, I think that the Department of Defense budget is fine, but the foreign aid is just out of control. I mean, we shouldn't be giving so much money to other countries when we need the money here. I mean, have you seen all the homeless people on the street? People who shouldn't even be homeless. They're even drugged. I mean, you can tell these people are not in their right mind sometimes. And then other people from other countries say, oh, all Americans do is work. Well, yeah, because we're working for you guys, so you're just laying around in the sun or something. Seriously, I think that foreign aid is just out of control. I mean, I will cut the USAID budget by half.
Absolutely. No, thank you for taking a strong stance on making sure there are stronger borders and federal debt is reduced. I think if you're the elected congresswoman and you live up to those promises, our children and grandchildren will thank you. So, Monica,
yeah, we can't really we can't be so extreme either to just cut all foreign aid, because we need the diplomatic ties. No change is good when it's done so rashly. I mean, change is best when it's done gradually. Yeah. However,
and also very strategically, right? You want to do it gradually, but you want to be very strategic. If any countries are really take our money and put it for good use, as in like maintain strong borders, maintain national defense, and take care of their people from a humanitarian grounds, is great. But if they're going to
and also I think that other countries should solve their own problems. I mean, why are we always solving other countries' problems? We have our own problems, so we have to fix our own problems first. America first. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah. I'm not going to be using a lot of terms. I don't want to be cliche and just repeat what other politicians say, because I'm not really a politician. Like Governor Youngkin said, he really wasn't a politician. He was a businessman. And, I'm an economist, but I'm also a mother. I see myself as a mother. However, yeah, now I'm trying to be a politician, and I don't want to use the same terms like woke and all. But I mean, I basically agree with the Republican creed, with the Republican values. And I think that I don't want to just, you tell me if you want me to change the subject, but I think I'm the best candidate for the 8th district, because I think that I have a good chance of being Bayer, because it doesn't really matter like if he's a seasoned public speaker or he's a millionaire. It doesn't matter. He doesn't connect with the people. People are unhappy. And the two guys who are running, the 2 men who are running with me in this race, they're great people. I like them both. However, they already lost against Mr. Bayer. They only got like 25% of the vote or 30% of the vote. And then I'm running against 2 women who are also very, very nice, talented people. They're very smart women. And one of them is a mother as well. She has 4 children. However, I think that one of them is too conservative. I'm more of a centrist, like Mr. Youngkin. And the other one doesn't really understand what it takes to raise a family. She doesn't understand like how hard it is. When I became a mother and a wife, it changed my life, especially when I became a mother. So I think that she's too young to be a congressperson.
So, Monica, let me also stick to policy questions. And I'm glad, I think as we went along, I did want to ask you about your winning primary strategies and so on and so forth. I'll get to that. But let me ask you a policy question. I'm sure you're aware that when Fairfax County Public Schools revoked the Thomas Jefferson's colorblind merit-based application process. They did that in December 2020 in favor of hybrid system with bonus points assigned to non-academic factors. What are your thoughts on it? One of the reasons I'm very interested in knowing your thoughts is because I believe TJ falls in your congressional district. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I applaud Asra Nomani's efforts, to counteract the whole CRT and the whole admissions, like changing the admissions process for TJ. I think that she's doing a good job with that and with that effort because, yeah, it shouldn't change. It shouldn't be, I don't think there should be any quotas. I mean, look, I probably benefited from that, I guess, with my getting into Stanford maybe because I'm a minority. However, I don't think that people should be given any favors or anything because it just creates like it's too much pressure on everyone and it's just not right. It should just be based on like academic achievement. The admission should be based on academic achievement because that was the whole purpose of having a special school. It doesn't just so I think it's wrong. I think that the TJ should just be what it was before and just admit kids with the highest grades.
Absolutely, meritocracy is the key.
And also, it's not doing any service to Hispanic or the African American or Hispanic community because then it just creates a negative sentiment towards those communities.
Absolutely. And also, I think I always say Hispanics, Black, doesn't matter the color. They're all equally capable. They're all very smart, very bright children. I've been part of PTAs and in and out of schools all the time because I do have two kids. I mean, I don't think the intelligence has anything to do with any color. It's like all of them are smart.
Yeah, and also Sri Lanka, I think that there are several kinds of intelligences, not just math and reading. There's also musical intelligence, which some ethnic groups seem to excel more than others. Like African Americans are usually better singers. I mean, and they're very good at athletics. So there's athletic intelligence. I think there's like 7 kinds of intelligences, artistic intelligence. So I don't see why things have to change so much so fast and just create friction among the ethnic groups. I think that I think that Asra Nomani is doing a good job with that.
Monica, I wish you would speak on school board and say the exact thing because intelligence means that you just don't have to just be good in math and science, right? Actually, growing up, I was never good in math at all. I was very good in science and biology. So I chose to become a healthcare professional and not an engineer. So I don't have to be an engineer in order to thrive. I can do what I'm good at. And I'm sure you are too. I mean, there is a reason you would have chosen to be economist. I said I could never get into a New York University of Arts because that's not my expertise. And it's okay. It doesn't make us any small of an individual. It's just focusing on the thoughts. Monica, on your website, I saw you writing and I just really, I would love to get some clarification. It says you support workers' right to a safe workplace. What do you mean exactly when you say workers' right to safe workplace?
Oh, yes, because, I probably was referring to that there should be more metal detectors at workplaces because there's been a lot of incidents of like mass shootings in the last years. So I was probably referring to that. I'm a big proponent of metal detectors at workplaces with a large number of employees.
Yeah. So Monica, I know you spoke a bit about your other candidates, which is great. But what is your strategy for winning primaries? Because at the end of the day, you need to beat other 4 candidates in order to become a primary candidates, congressional candidates. So what's your strategy? You don't have to share your home secrets, but would love to understand the grand strategy. Is it registering more delegates? I know that is closed in 8th district, but what's your strategy for winning primaries?
Okay, well, yeah, delegates. I'm to go out to delegates, like going to houses, door knocking, via phone bank as well. Trying to listen, trying to write back when they write me emails. Trying to get to know them by going to all the events and forums. I try to attend all the forums. And I think that's important because it's different than just, reading your statement or just calling in. I did call in once because I had to go see my parents in Florida. However, it's better to go in person. So some people are not going in person, um, but most of us are. Anyway, I basically the delegates have to ask themselves, do we really want Dunbar removed? Because it's possible if you're like someone like myself. Yeah, I might not be, I might not be the classic politician. However, really, I'm really good with people. People just like me. For some reason, they feel comfortable with me. I don't know, maybe because I don't lord it over them, like, all my skills and life experience, just the way I am. They just like me. That's why I have so many volunteers. And that's why people are just really passionate about me. I don't know why. I mean, yes, maybe I'm showing off a little now, but that's just the way it is. So if people in the 8th district really want change, if they really want Don Bayo removed, then they should vote for me because I speak Spanish and I'm going to launch a campaign in Spanish. And also, I feel very comfortable with the Asian community. I'm very comfortable with the international community. I grew up partly overseas, and so I got to experience different cultures. I actually even lived in Central America there's a large Central American population here in the 8th district. And in my years at university, I had many friends, many Asian friends, particularly Indian friends, because of where I went to school. There's a large Asian population in these schools. A lot of because they're very studious. That's just the truth. I mean, they have a good education system in those countries, or they come here. The best come here to study at the universities that I attended. So I feel very comfortable with them, and I think that that's really going to help me to beat Don Bayer because Don Bayer's just disconnected. Yeah, sure, maybe he goes to the mosque or something once a year, but he doesn't really relate to the people. The people don't, they don't relate to him.
Monica, I think I have to agree with you. On an average, research shows that Asian kids put in close to 6 hours more than an average American kid. Asian Americans puts in extraordinary amount of time into their education. So that could be part of the reason why they're successful. It's not that any Asian American are born brilliant. All of them put in amazing, amazing amount of hard work to get where they are. So, Monica, tell me something in the last, I mean, we are coming almost to the end of the program. So I was curious to know, since you mentioned about Asian Americans, May is Asian American month. I want you to comment on two things. One is there is a lot of this Asian American hate going on. It could be the news media exaggerating, or it could be the real thing. I mean, recently, even as of today, one of my friends sent an article that stated that Asian American hate crimes are going up in DC area. First thing, I would love to know your thoughts. But second thing is, I know Eden Center is in 8th District too, and Eden
Yeah.
Center is a hub for Asian American voter mobilization. So do you interact with them? How is your collaboration with them in order to ensure our people have a voice?
Yes. Yes, I have gone there and I have met several business owners. In fact, I got a contribution from one of the business owners there that I know of because I haven't checked. I don't check it every day, so I might have gotten more. But I have interacted, and yes, I think that there is some anti-Asian sentiment that has been going around, especially since the pandemic, because the virus was set, you know, to be started in China. So obviously that's why. And I think that Asian Americans have to deal with that, which is really hard for them. However, I actually followed this one talk show person on TV. I don't think that you know who she is because people in DC are so serious, and me too. I'm a very serious person. However, I like to follow people who are not as serious. Her name is Jenny May. She's actually a fashionista and also a talk show hostess, and she's Asian American. She has like millions of followers, and she talks about this a lot in her show. It's called The Real. It's for women talking. So I can see definitely that Asian Americans have to deal with this sentiment of feeling like they're not American, that they're from China, that all these things that are said about them. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard for minorities sometimes to just try to just fit in, because, and also on television, minorities are not really represented as well, and it's hard. So Asian Americans and other minorities have to try harder to fit in, and it's hard, but people just don't really understand that. And also, it looks bad to complain because people don't like that. So a lot of people just have to just not say anything just to be accepted. And I hope to change that, because that's why I'm running for Congress too, because I feel like if people see someone that looks like them and like talks like them a little, then they will feel more comfortable and more self-confident.
Absolutely, Monica. Representation does matter. I always say I believe in representation as long as they're qualified candidates. I think for me, meritocracy and qualifications, America first, being pro-American, plays a major role. But I have to agree with you, representations do matter. Makes you feel a little more warm and welcome into an environment when you see somebody that looks like you, talks like you, and so on and so forth. So Monica, tell me, this might be a good time to tell our registered delegates. I know that only registered delegates can come to the convention in 8th Congressional District, but a lot of people are always confused about ranking choice order, and also where do they come and vote and what date?
Yes. The convention is May 21st. It's at the Waterford Convention Center, and it's important to be there by 8 o'clock. But if you're running late, that's okay. It goes from 8 to 11 a.m. And I believe the candidates we're going to speak there. My team's going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there to answer any questions that people have and just talk about what's important to people. I think that the question that the delegates have to ask themselves again is, who would I prefer to be my congressperson, Monica or Don Beyer? Because if they don't choose me, it's going to be Don Beyer again. I don't really see how any of the two gentlemen who are running now, they already lost against Mr. Beyer by a lot. And of the two females besides me who are running, one of them is too young, and she is not a parent, and I don't think that she will beat Mr. Beyer. And the other one is very nice too, but she's very conservative, and this is a very kind of either centrist or liberal district, so I don't think that she could beat Mr. Beyer. Then there's me. I'm a centrist person, and I feel very connected to Mr. Youngkin. I really like him, and he knows me. He has told me that he can't endorse anyone until after the primary, but if I won, he would endorse me. So who would the delegates have to ask themselves? Would I be better off with Monica, who's a novice, or with Don Beyer, who is doing what he's just going to keep doing what he's doing? Whereas I would work closely with Congressman Whitman, first of all, then Congressman Good and Congressman Klein and Congressman Griffith. I will be basically learning from them, and I will work well with them.
Yeah. Monica, I think that is a compelling argument. Although I think sometimes centrist might not help out the conservative causes, but you are in a district where a lot of folks do belong to that centrist, they're right centrists or left centrist and so on and so forth. So I understand where your position is coming from. So Monica, in the last few minutes, please tell our viewers if I missed anything, because I always say, I want to ask candidates all questions. I want to understand their education policy. I want to understand their pro-life. I want to understand their Second Amendment rights. I want to understand about their federal experience with regards to Social Security trust funds, multiple things, but you can only capture are so many. But if you feel that I'm just asking something related to policy that you are like, boy, I really want my audience or my voters to know, this would be the best time.
Yeah. Well, I want to say that if I were elected, I would use my Spanish skills at the border. I would travel with Congressman Good to the border. I would ask to accompany him to try to, clear up any miscommunications there are there, because this is a really serious issue that's affecting everything: our economy, crime, education. The border for me is the number one issue. I mean, border control is the number one issue. And I'd be there with Congressman Good. He's already gone there times. There's Governor Abbott from Texas. He's a Republican. I don't know if you know about him. The poor guy's actually disabled. He had a horrible accident when he was very young. He's a Republican, and I agree with most of the things that he does, obviously. However, I don't like the fact that he's sending these buses over here, like we're on the 8th bus here, and we don't need any more illegal immigrants here in D.C. He's trying to make a point, and he's making it. We need to fix up the border control issue because it's affecting us here in Virginia. So we need to fix that. It's not just affecting the whole country. And also, I just want to say that I want to get to know the delegates better, and that's why I'm having a barbecue this Mother's Day at my home in McLean, and the delegates obviously don't have to pay. They're invited so they can get to know me and my family better. I hope that everyone has a chance to look at my website, which is just my name, monicacarpio.com, where I have many pictures, because pictures tell 1,000 words in 1 quick minute. So pictures sometimes are better than words. I have many pictures of my family, my friends, my volunteers, politicians that I like and have met in the last couple of years. So please go on my website, monicacarpio.com, and just let me know what you think. I like to receive emails because I take into account all kinds of opinions. Thank you so much.
Monica, thank you for joining us. This was a great conversation, and I wish you the very best in primaries. You made a case to our voters of why you're the best candidates. You also made a case about the issues, whether we agree or disagree. You laid out to our voters, and now voters will choose the best candidate. If you are the chosen candidate, hope you come by again after your primary, so we can do a deep dive into many issues that are plaguing our country, and in particular 8th Congressional District. I wish you the very best. And I always say that may the best candidate win. And I just have no doubt that with all the enthusiasm and spirit that our candidates have, you're out there all the time, door knocking, strategizing, working with our constituents, and everything will pay off in November for us. So viewers, you heard Monica Carpio. She's running for 8th Congressional District. Please go to her website. Consider volunteering, consider your donations. I always say time, talent, and treasure are the most important things for candidates. I wish you take the time to at least dedicate one of those to our candidates. And you heard Monica's positions. If you agree with her, please consider going to her website. Couple of announcements this coming Friday at 6 p.m. on Conversations That Count. I'm going to have Z Van Fleet. Z grew up in China during the height of Mao's Cultural Revolution. And Z, compelled by her personal experience during this Chinese Cultural Revolution, and the realization that what she's experienced in China is now taking place within the United States. So she has committed herself to warn the American people and help us see what is currently happening in our school system and in society in general. So you would love that conversation. May is an Asian American month. And I wanted to definitely open with our candidate, Monica Carpio. It's very important we get our candidates' information, but I also wanted to bring in our Chinese American that can speak about Asian American month. On Saturday at May 7th at 6 p.m., we will have another candidate, Captain Hang Kao. He's a congressional candidate running for 10th district. I hope you continue to tune in, continue to support our candidates that are putting their family life out there. Monica has two beautiful children and husband, from my understanding, your husband is writing a third book on cybersecurity, which is, I think, is phenomenal. So, I mean, people are putting their personal time and effort. So I hope you consider voting for the right candidate and coming out and supporting them. Continue to tune in to learn about our candidates. This will be posted on YouTube. So if you missed a part of it, please go into YouTube and understand Monica's positions. Please don't forget to subscribe to Fairfax GOP and share these videos far and wide. Our candidates don't have the name recognition that millionaire, like Monica was saying, Congressman Don Beyer, who has been in Congress for multiple terms, have it. So our candidates really need that exposure that they need and deserve. So please do that. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening. God bless you all.
Thank you.
God bless the candidates. Take care.